Good evening, everyone. White Witch 110 here. How is everyone? Hope you had a good Monday. I'm going to be continuing the story, The Quarry. And depending on time-wise, I may read the entire second part that I wrote. Okay. Neither could believe what they were seeing. There were at least 10 to 15 figures of gray. They still aren't showing up on the flare. Lori was perplexed. As the last one disappeared, a heat signature was picked up on the opposite side once again. Paul, look! He leaned over to see the screen. Seconds later, it moved. At first, it looked like a fox. As it moved off to their left, it looked more like a large cat. A shapeshifter? Paul questioned. What was he seeing? While they watched, it vanished. Paul, let's go. I don't feel safe. He didn't argue. Paul helped Lori up, and they quickly made their way to their car. For most of the way home, Lori couldn't shake the feeling something was behind them. The sky was just becoming brighter when they reached home. Paul, I think something is in the back seat, she whispered. Paul used the flare. Sure enough, there was a faint trace of heat. There was something, but it's gone now. Then where is it? Lori gazed out through the car windows. Was something waiting for them? I don't think it's out there. I think we left it behind, he told her. Slowly, they exited the car and went inside. Hours later, the phone rang. It was Joe. You guys ready to go? He asked. I think you should both come over. We have something to show you. Joe and Dina were in shock. They didn't know what to say. They had to believe what they were seeing. And this was early this morning? He asked. Yep. We didn't believe it either, and we were there, Paul said. With that many, there has to be proof they were there. Joe was gung-ho to go. Lori was on edge as they pulled up to the quarry. Everything was so fresh in her mind. They took Joe and Dina over to the spot. We were here, Paul said. The four made their way down. Looking behind the brush, there still was no sign. Did they seem to go down? Joe asked. They just disappeared, Lori told him. I don't know how else to describe it. The rumble began. No one moved. Dina jumped aside. Something touched me. I felt something pass by me. She was freaked out. I don't want to be here, Joe. This all seems so wrong. They made their way up to the ridge. Turning back, they all observed the dark figure. This time it was facing them. Moments later it was gone, and a horrendous sound was heard. Oh my goodness, what was that? Dina's eyes filled with tears of terror. I want to leave, she implored them. But they all stood waiting. They finally moved towards the car as another pulled up. It was two local teens. I don't think you guys should be here, Paul advised them. You seen it, didn't you? One said. Seen what? Joe questioned. The creature, the other said. You must have seen them. How did these boys know? What have you seen? Laurie inquired. Black figures in the pit. Nearly every time you feel the rumble, they're there, the older boy explained. How many times have you seen them? Laurie asked. When did you first see them? Dina asked. Have you only seen them here? Paul continued with the questions. Slow down, man. The first time we seen them was here 3 weeks ago. Toby and me, we were checking out the pit for fossils. We felt the rumble, and it appeared over there. The boy pointed. Hang on a second. Just hubby losing his marbles. It was behind the brushes. Did you get a good look? Joe asked. No, we ran when we seen it. When we got up here, we looked back and it was gone. You seen it, didn't you? It was his turn. Yes. Laurie stepped forward. We've seen them. The young men were surprised. Them? They had only ever seen one at a time. Maybe she shouldn't have said anything. Laurie explained what they had experienced earlier. They parted with a warning for them to honestly stay away. The rumble had become a regular thing. The small city acknowledged it like sunrise and sunset. But there were 4 people who didn't. Night after night, they sat and watched the same routine. It continued to fascinate them. The season was changing to fall. That would soon bring winter. The first scatter of autumn color covered the ground. Another late night at the pit. As the figures began their trek to the bush, Laurie noticed something. Guys, do you see it? She asked. See what? Dina strained to see. There's something above the bush. It was barely visible. I see it, Joe called out. Above the spot was a structure. This is where they were disappearing to. Those aren't squatches. They're miners, Laurie said. But that doesn't make sense. This wasn't that type of mining, Paul pointed out. Google it, Laurie suggested. Sure enough, many years ago, the men did go down in the mines from this very spot. This mine collapsed like others. Laurie made her way down to the bush with the others in tow. We see you, she called out. From the many figures, one stepped aside. We've been watching you. The figure came closer, causing Dina to step back. You don't need to do this anymore. The spirit smiled and turned. It stopped short of the bushes. It is our job. He moved on, then stopped again and turned once more. This ground is not safe. The rumbling began. Leave! It shouted. The 4 made their way quickly back up the quarry wall. They heard the rocks and earth moving before they seen it. Everything below was falling into itself. The only spot that did not move was where the bushes were. All else vanished before their eyes. The teenage boys' heads popped up above the edge. Joe and Paul ran forward to help them. We told you to stay away, Joe reprimanded them. They all left together. In the morning, the 4 went back. The sight was astonishing. The hole went miles down. The only thing left standing was the bush and the earth below it, a single pillar amid nothing. Paul got on the phone to the police. As they waited, they continued in awe to gaze at the vista in front of them. "And when did you come here?" the officer asked. Paul spoke for the group. "Not long after I called you. We've been out hiking all morning. When we found the quarry, we were shocked." "Is this a regular place for you to hike?" "No, we usually stay toward more of the west," Paul informed the officer. "There are trail camps throughout this area," the officer responded. Paul was close to admitting they'd been there many times in the last month. When the officer returned, he said there was no sign of anyone on that trail, except for today. The four were in shock. They had used this trail every day. Why was there no footage? It didn't matter. The police took their statement and allowed them to leave. That night, they returned for one last time before the permanent fence was put in place. With the night vision glasses, Paul could see one figure. It floated towards them. "Tommyknocker sent us above to warn you. But just like us, you didn't listen until the last minute. For us, it was too late," the spirit explained. "What was the noise?" Lori asked. "The earth beneath collapsing, slowly, layer by layer. There is no need for us now." As quickly as he spoke, he was gone. The four gazed into the darkness. What was at the bottom of the pit, besides the rocks and dirt? And that is the end of the story. Just like leaving you hanging, there may be a second story to this one. I'm not sure yet. I have started another one. It's going along pretty good so far. I'd like to thank you all, my YouTube family, for coming this evening and sharing in the rest of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyone passing through, feel free to look at any of my other videos. If there's something there that interests you, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it out with family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, anyone you think might be interested. While you're here, consider becoming a subscriber. And if you do, think about going that extra step and clicking that notification bell so that you'll know every time that I upload. And don't forget the giveaway. If you go to that video and leave a comment, Angel, I'll know that you would like your name entered into the draw for this Saturday. So have a great rest of the evening and have a great Tuesday. Until the next time, as always, ciao for now.